This video is to support students working with the lesson for Unit 5, Day 10, History and Historiography of Women in Africa and the Americas, with a guiding question: how does centering women's histories improve our understanding of societies in Africa and the Americas before 1600? The lesson objective is to analyze the experience of women in the history of pre-1600 Africa and the Americas through the lens of feminist history. Where does our knowledge of history come from? Throughout this unit, we have discussed the importance of understanding the sources of our historical understanding. We know that historians use a variety of sources and artifacts to attempt to understand the lives of people and societies. To do so, historians work directly with researchers from other fields, including archaeologists and anthropologists, whose expertise helps historians to make meaning of the objects, fragments, and traces that people left behind. But there are many important questions that we still must ask, including: how do we make sure that we are not misunderstanding the experiences of people in history? How do we make sure we're not ignoring groups of people? Is it possible that the way we make sense of history hides some groups of people, or makes some groups of people invisible? What are some additional questions that you think still need to be asked to better understand where our knowledge of history comes from? One of the ways that we can improve history is by using a critical lens to examine how groups of people are represented and described, or if whole groups of people are left out of the picture. A critical lens is a method for analyzing texts and other sources that allows us to see details, themes, and clues that we might otherwise overlook. Feminist history is one of the powerful critical lenses available to us. Feminist history is the reading, writing, and discussion of history from a female perspective. One of the goals of feminist history is to focus on the perspectives, experiences, and voices of women in history. By doing this, feminist history allows us to not only discover women and their stories in history, but may also change the way we look at history in general. In the next slide, you will read an excerpt from a text about feminist history. This excerpt will help us to develop our feminist history lens that we will use for analyzing sources from the Americas and Africa before 1600. You will read the text 2 times. Read the excerpt of the text below for the first time using the glossary to support your understanding of key terms that Judith Zinsser uses to describe the depiction of women in history. Read the excerpt of the text below for a second time using the focus questions provided. When you finish reading and thinking about the questions individually, discuss your thinking in small groups. After your discussion, you will have the opportunity to share insights and questions that emerged in your group. Focus questions. What do you think is Zinsser's main argument? To what extent do you agree? According to Zinsser, who writes history? What is the agenda they have in mind? How might Zinsser's argument change the way you think about how the history in this course has told the stories of women?